the southern United States in the early 19th century, a land of vast plantations and burgeoning wealth built on the backs of enslaved Africans. The institution of slavery was deeply entrenched, woven into the very fabric of Southern society. But within this system of oppression, there was resistance. Enslaved people risked everything for a chance at freedom. Escaped slaves, seeking refuge from the brutality of plantation life, often fled south. Their destination, Spanish Florida. A land of swamps and forests, Florida offered a haven, a place where escape was possible. The Spanish, eager to undermine American power, often welcomed these refugees. This influx of escaped slaves enraged Southern slaveholders. They demanded action, putting pressure on the government to intervene. The issue of escaped slaves became a point of diplomatic tension between the United States and Spain, tensions that would eventually boil over. For escaped slaves, the journey to Spanish Florida was fraught with peril. They traveled by night, navigating treacherous swamps and dense forests. The threat of capture always loomed, carried by slave catchers and their dogs, but the promise of freedom spurred them onward. Spanish Florida was a diverse and complex society. Alongside the Spanish colonists lived indigenous tribes, including the Seminoles. The Seminoles, a strong and independent people, welcomed escaped slaves into their communities. They offered protection and a chance to build new lives. The Seminoles and escaped slaves formed a unique bond, a community forged in resistance. They lived together, worked together, and fought together. This alliance would prove to be a formidable force in the coming conflict with the United States. By the early 19th century, Spain's hold on Florida was weakening. The once mighty empire was a shadow of its former self, plagued by internal strife and economic woes. Florida, sparsely populated and poorly defended, was a vulnerable outpost. The United States, a young nation brimming with ambition, watched Spanish Florida with covetous eyes. The fertile lands, strategic location, and the issue of escaped slaves fueled American expansionist desires. The acquisition of Florida became a strategic priority. Adding to the instability was the presence of indigenous groups, including the Seminoles, who resisted American encroachment. The U.S. government saw these groups as obstacles to expansion and sought to remove them. In 1817, the simmering tensions between the United States and the Seminoles erupted into open warfare. Leading the American forces was General Andrew Jackson, a fierce and ambitious military commander. Jackson, known for his ruthlessness, would leave an indelible mark on the conflict. Jackson's orders were clear: subdue the Seminoles, punish those who harbored escaped slaves, and secure Florida for the United States. With unwavering determination, Jackson launched a series of swift and brutal campaigns. His troops crossed the border into Spanish Florida, striking deep into Seminole territory. Villages were burned, crops destroyed, and women and children taken captive. Jackson's scorched earth tactics aimed to break the Seminoles' will to resist. He waged a campaign of terror, seeking to crush any hope of defiance. The capture of Pensacola. Pensacola, a strategically important Spanish port city, became a focal point of the conflict. Jackson, believing the Spanish were aiding the Seminoles, set his sights on capturing the city. In May 1818, Jackson's forces marched on Pensacola, meeting little resistance. The Spanish, outnumbered and outgunned, were forced to surrender the city. The capture of Pensacola was a significant victory for Jackson, giving him control of a key port and dealing a blow to Spanish authority in Florida. Jackson's actions, though unauthorized by the U.S. government, were met with approval by many Americans. They saw his aggressive tactics as necessary to protect American interests and expand the nation's borders. The fall of St. Mark's. Another Spanish fort, St. Mark's, also fell under Jackson's control. Located on the Gulf Coast, St. Mark's was a hub for trade and a haven for escaped slaves. Jackson believed the fort was being used to supply the Seminoles with weapons and ammunition. In April 1818, Jackson's forces captured St. Mark's after a brief bombardment. The Spanish garrison, unable to withstand the American assault, surrendered the fort. With the fall of St. Mark's, Jackson further tightened his grip on Spanish Florida. Jackson's actions in capturing Spanish forts without a formal declaration of war sparked controversy. Some questioned the legality of his actions, while others praised his boldness in defending American interests. Subduing Seminole resistance. Despite facing a superior force, the Seminoles fought fiercely to defend their homeland. Led by chiefs like Neamathla and Himmler, they waged a guerrilla war against the invading Americans. They used their knowledge of the terrain to their advantage, ambushing patrols and disappearing into the swamps. However, the Seminoles' resistance was gradually worn down by Jackson's relentless campaign. Their villages were destroyed, their crops burned, and their families scattered. Faced with overwhelming odds, many Seminoles were forced to surrender or flee deeper into the Florida wilderness. The First Seminole War was a brutal conflict, marked by atrocities committed by both sides. The war had a devastating impact on the Seminole people, shattering their communities and forcing them from their ancestral lands. The spoils of war. In 1819, following the conclusion of the First Seminole War, Spain ceded Florida to the United States in the Adams-Onis Treaty. This treaty, negotiated under the shadow of Jackson's military victories, formally transferred Florida into American hands. The acquisition of Florida fulfilled a long-standing ambition of the United States. The treaty also stipulated that the United States would assume certain financial claims against Spain. In return, Spain relinquished all claims to Florida and recognized American claims to the Pacific Northwest. The treaty marked a significant expansion of American territory and influence. The cession of Florida had profound consequences for the Seminoles. They were forced to relinquish their lands and relocate to a reservation in central Florida. This forced relocation would have a lasting impact on the Seminole people, leading to further conflict and displacement in the years to come. A troubled legacy. The First Seminole War was a pivotal event in American history, marking a turning point in the nation's westward expansion. The war demonstrated the United States' growing power and its willingness to use military force to achieve its objectives. It also highlighted the complex and often brutal realities of American expansion. The war had a profound impact on the lives of all involved. For the Seminoles, it was a story of displacement and dispossession. For escaped slaves seeking refuge in Florida, it was a time of uncertainty and fear. And for Andrew Jackson, the war served as a springboard to national prominence, propelling him to the presidency. The First Seminole War serves as a reminder of the human cost of westward expansion and the enduring struggle for freedom and self-determination. It is a story that continues to resonate today, reminding us of the importance of understanding the past to navigate the complexities of the present. If you like videos like this, please subscribe and click that notification bell. Thanks for watching This and That News.